Greetings, this is Wacko Bob. Once again, I'm gonna do my final, I should say, talk on the coin flip debate and who flipped the coin with Ritchie Valens between Tommy Allsup and Dion Dimucci. And I got a lot to say here because I did a lot of checking into this one. I looked at Chimes Freedom, Global Gazette, and I forget the site that had the open letter that Dion Dimucci got from Tommy Allsup. But I'm going to go over some things, and this one will take a little while, but I am going to point out the red flags from the first two videos and some more red flags at the same time too. And between all three videos, I think we'll get a better understanding of things. I'm not taking any sides here. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just going to give my thoughts on some of the scenarios that go into play that maybe didn't go into play, and some of the points that were even made through Chimes Freedom that I really thought did a lot of good work on this one. He even puts over my first two videos I did here on YouTube about about that day. Now, just for the record, like I said, I am 40 years old now. I turned 40 on February 15th, and so I was born in 1974. Save people from any arithmetic that they may try to do here. So I wasn't born in 59. I was born 15 years later. But with that being said, let's get into this. As you already know, we lost Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens in the Big Bopper, and the pilot Roger Peterson in a Beechcraft Bonanza on February 3rd, 1959. But if we really look at this story, the story came out, and a lot of things were said. Of course, we all know the things that have been written about it, the biographies that have been done about it. For both Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens, and some of them were for all three, especially VH1's Behind the Music. A lot of things got to be said that we never normally got to hear, but the one thing that was never done is no one ever really talked to Dion Dimucci. It was almost as if he didn't count for anything. He wasn't even recognized in movies. He wasn't even interviewed by anybody. He just would. It's almost as if he got an honorable mention, and yet he was one of the headliners who was probably a little bit bigger than Ritchie Valens was at that point. Dion had a little more time under his belt, and there's some disturbing facts too that we have to get into, not just from Dion Dimucci, but from Tommy Allsup as well too. I'll be straight up. I'm not taking any sides here on this one, and people are going to be shocked with what I have to say. But let's get into this. First thing, of course, we already know what happened. We've lived for 50 years knowing of a coin flip. We've all seen the movies that were done. We've seen all of it, and from what we can figure out here, we also have the stories. We also have the stories. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame called on Dion Dimucci with the interview, and Dion Dimucci had said very little where this whole action goes. He has said very little. He beforehand really only talked about being there. And he did talk about the thought of paying $36 for a 1 hour plane ride just wasn't worth it to him, and that's how much his family pays in rent. It was like a magic number. Okay. He didn't talk, so there wasn't the coin flip talk there. Now, if this were the case, where he would talk about this and Waylon Jennings and Tommy Allsup were still alive, why didn't they bring it up then? And I'll tell you why they didn't. Because it was about the coin flip. This all had to do with a coin flip, and there's a lot of truth to this that I think really needs to be told. And I got to be honest here with you. There are some things that really don't add up right on either side when you really put this together. And that's one of them. They could have easily had said that he never was a part of any plans on being on the plane through Buddy Holly back then, especially while Waylon was still alive. Now, looking into this, Chimes Freedom, which was and Global Gazette, really had a lot to say with this one. They're just to name a few. FindADeath.com also shows, different, more than one story about this through Tommy Allsup, where Tommy Allsup's story did change a few times, and we got Bob Hale that's even disputing the coin flip, but yet Bob Hale was all about who flipped the coin between Ritchie Valens and Tommy Allsup, and that's it. I mean, if you're so sure of yourself, Tommy Allsup, why don't you debate that one? I'll tell you why. Because you're looking at it as him being on your side, giving your side of the story. But as I looked into what Bob Hale had to say, and he put on his 2 cents on Chimes Freedom, and Bob Hale did say that in the end that there was only one coin toss that didn't involve Dion at all, as far as who was going to go on the plane. Now, as I look at this and as I read more into this, I just I see a lot more than what a lot of people are seeing, and I thought the investigation that was done by the one who goes by Chimes Freedom, whoever that owner is, I'm hoping that he'll run with these videos. He saw some things, and I say a lot. Please forgive me. But he saw some things that really could use some scenarios, and I put some scenarios together too. Because there was still debates going on, because there are talks that, number one, Buddy Holly, pretty much is a friend to anyone. And Tommy also, in a very disturbing letter to Dion Dimucci, said some very disturbing things, in my opinion of it all. For starters, he says he constantly refers to him as a liar. And of course talks about how the people alive today, Bob Hale, and fortunately he passed away recently on February 26th, Frankie Sardo, and of course Waylon Jennings, while he was still alive, did. And who else was there? There were a few people that really backed the story. We'll use the Valens family, primarily Connie, and they said Connie's husband. Also back up Tommy Allsup's story. Well, I got to say some things here. Connie was extremely, extremely young, so she definitely did not meet her husband. Come the at the time of her brother Richie's death. That's number one. Number two, and this is a big number two, is reading into Bob Hale's thing. He's not calling Dion Dimucci a liar. He's really not. He's saying that there was only one and only coin flip, and he goes on to say that this is his 2 cents, which means he didn't see some things. However, he said Bob Hale was the one who went into Carol Anderson's office with Buddy Holly to set up the plane ride that did say it was going to be them. There's also a talk that there was a coin flip between the Big Bopper and Waylon Jennings, and Waylon Jennings was offered a seat that way too. For all we know, if this is true, Waylon Jennings may have said, if it's all right with Buddy, it's all right with me, when confronted by the Big Bopper, because Big Bopper was very sick. And I could see Waylon Jennings giving up his seat just on that alone. But there may have been a coin flip, and Big Bopper wouldn't have just gone up to him out of nowhere to give up about getting his seat on the plane. I think there's a lot more to the story than meets the eye, and that's one of them. Another part of it is, also in this letter that he wrote, he talked about how he's upset different people in Buddy Holly's family and Ritchie Valens' family by coming up with this assumption some 50 years later. Now, I gotta say this. There is a video, of course, that everyone already knows of Connie Valens Lamos. I guess that's how she says her name. And according to her, she doesn't really have a put down for Tommy Allsup either. She was very relaxed, very calm when they asked her about it. And, she talked about being a fan of Huckabee, and Huckabee said some things that seemed to favor maybe Dion Dimucci, since he was interviewing him there. But she said she believes the truth is with Tommy Allsup. Nothing more. I don't see where there was any traumatization or any sort of real dramatics where that goes. That's number 3. Number 4. Tommy Allsup seems to always have a good time remembering things and going down memory lane. And when Maria Elena went to Clear Lake, her and Tommy Allsup, smiled. They hugged each other. They were very good friends. This was for the 50th anniversary. Granted, most of this didn't come in until 2 years later. So everything was always A-okay. That's what at least that's what it seemed to be. Now, to really bring this across, she basically backed Dion. And the most I see her saying is Dion knows the truth and she's been good friends with Dion. All of a sudden, Tommy Allsup is attacking the character of Maria Elena. And now we got Tommy Allsup, this 79-year-old man, issuing challenges to have a fight with Dion, and then issuing, and then asking for a polygraph test to be done. But he attacks her character and says how her pregnancy was fake, how she may have forced Buddy Holly to marry. I don't know. I haven't read the book yet. And how the Holly family did not like Maria Elena. That might be believable, but for different reasons. Being that you're South, you're in Texas, and a lot of Southerners didn't take very kindly to minorities at the time, and of course Maria Elena being Hispanic, that may have to do something. Not accusing them, and to tell you the truth, for my scenarios and everything, for what little bit I know about the Holly family, that's actually a reach. But, that's one thing to look at there, too. But he challenged her in every way. Buddy Holly believed she was pregnant, and I guess they were starting to show. I don't know what Dion's going to say here. Did she decide she was going to abort the baby after she lost Buddy Holly? I don't know. I don't think that would be her style, or even Buddy's style. I do believe she miscarried. I do believe she was pregnant, and I do believe she miscarried. I'm sorry, Tommy, if you don't like that one. The other thing in this letter is he talks about his friendship with Buddy Holly, and he puts down Dion every possible way. As a musician, as a rock star, as a Christian, as a person, as anything. And he acts as if Buddy didn't really want to have any sort of thing to do with him. And how his tour he went on before this Winter Dance Party tour meant nothing that he did with Buddy Holly. And I don't buy that. Buddy Holly gets along with a lot of people. It was also said by Waylon Jennings that, and it also is in this book too, and research was done, and I believe that the person who researched this book that decided to do something on the day the music died did offer Waylon Jennings another tour that was going to go through Europe, and at the same time, he did tell him that he was returning with the Crickets. He wanted him to go on tour with them at the same time too, but did not want Tommy Allsup. He wasn't going to invite Tommy Allsup on this tour. Excuse me while I turn on another light here. So, are there issues with Tommy Allsup? Sounds like there might be, because he acts like he knew Buddy Holly the best, even though he knew him for the last year of his life only. The other thing is, to jump into here is, not only does he act like that, he acts like he was closer than he was to Buddy Holly than the Crickets were to him, and he was closer to him than Buddy Holly's own wife was to him. Now, If this is the case, if this is the case, then you got someone who's being very, very over possessive of where his spot was supposed to be in the late Buddy Holly's life. Now, to take this to another step, to take this one step further, just so he knows there's a reality here. When Buddy Holly was making it big, him and the Crickets spent more time in New York as their home more than they did Texas, especially during the last part of the Crickets being together. You know, one person did leave the Crickets. I believe it was Nicky Sullivan, who was the other guitar player. He had left the Crickets, and the Crickets were a three-piece by then. And they were spending more time in New York than they were in Texas. And when the Crickets broke up, Buddy Holly pretty much stayed in New York, and he stayed with his wife. Dion Dimucci is a full-fledged New Yorker. When his fame made it, he was still in New York. So I do believe, especially with Buddy Holly, who was doing a lot of producing and a lot of that, just staying home in New York, I believe him and Dion did cross paths and did have a good friendship. Buddy Holly, for what people know, he goes out of his way to include everyone. He's not a unlikely friend, an unlikely enemy of anybody. So there's that to look at. So these are some of the red flags we got to look at here with Tommy Allsup. How much is Tommy Allsup saying? There's already, you already hear, these are some of the speculations already with Tommy Allsup from findadeath.com, from globalgazette.com, and from, and from Chimes Freedom. Because if you really read into certain things where they say they back him up, there are, they don't know the other part of the story. They're only given the Tommy Allsup side of it, and there is there's a skepticalness there. But to keep this going, so people can get the better understanding. Now let's go on to the other side of things here with Dion Dimucci. Dion Dimucci, his claims are, that he waited over 50 years to give his side of the story. And why did Dion Dimucci have to wait 50 years to give his side of the story? He definitely didn't have to wait. He could have gone to press with this easily. That's number one. Number two, why were they not including Dion Dimucci in anything? They really needed to. How do we know that key people who said that they had the coin toss, if this was going to go on, said, we don't want Dion Dimucci included in this? Because, we could get into that one too. Because there's some things I have a hard time believing there, and that's going to be the red flags that go against both Dion Dimucci and Tommy Allsup. To keep this thing going, I'm not going to get into the letter too much. That was written because there was a lot. That letter would probably take a half hour to read, but it was very disturbing. But the other part of it with Dion is, why do you wait 50 years? Now, he said Frankie Sardou was on stage. Now, just for the record, at this point when they got to Clear Lake, the drummer Carl Bunch was pretty much in the hospital after having his feet with frostbite on him. He pretty much stayed in the hospital. They left him there and continued the tour. Carl Bunch wasn't even interviewed for Behind the Music. They did interview him later on with future biographies that would be done elsewhere. So they got that. Excuse me. So you got that. The other thing is that with that happening, 3 people pretty much filled in for Carl Bunch and all took turns playing the drums for each and every one of the artists. And you hear those 3 headliners' names: Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, Dion Dimucci. Now, I got this to say. If all the headliners, if all four headliners were in a private room talking about this, and they very well could have been. For all you know, Carol Anderson could have offered them offered him his office and just done the coin flip there. Is Carol Anderson still alive today? I don't know if he is. Even if he's not, is there anything that maybe proves a story like that? I don't know. I'll look up Carol Anderson, see what's happening there. But even if you guys know, you guys can come down to your scenarios, because this will be the last video I do on this topic. Okay, getting back into this. Boy, I'm balding badly. To really get more into this. They were the headliners. And how do four headliners who are also filling in on drums be in a private room while Frankie Sardo's on stage? Frankie Sardo has gone on to say he witnessed the coin flip with Ritchie Valens and Tommy Allsup. Now, still doesn't mean the other didn't happen. But, at the same time, I got to call that one, because one of them were playing drums. Did one of the Belmonts know how to play drums? Because the Belmonts were there with Dion. And now I will defend Dion here. He probably wouldn't go on a plane that wasn't going to include his own group. So if I were, if I'm Dion, I'm probably going to want to stick with my own people. Not that that's supposed to be a prejudice or anything like that. Just like Buddy Holly really wouldn't have chartered a plane without offering it to his own bandmates. The other thing is, with Dion, with that red flag, the other thing is, Dion Dimucci did very little talk of Tommy Allsup. He never really said anything where Tommy Allsup goes with his coin flip. He only talked about his. But it was brought up to him how Tommy Allsup feels about this one, and the way Tommy Allsup has just been going off, saying they'll put a boxing ring in Clear Lake and they'll settle it out, and I'll knock Dion Dimucci out. That's wrong. That's very disturbing. That's number one. Number two is, is the fact that when Dion was asked about it, he doesn't put down Tommy Allsup. He apologizes for him feeling the way he does. He puts Tommy over as being a great musician, but he only talks about, he stands by his coin flip and not Tommy's, saying that's all he knew. He didn't know anything about any other coin flip or any other arrangements as far as the playing goes. And I believe Dion on. That I believe him on. That's more believable. Now, if you notice, he doesn't put down Tommy Allsup. He doesn't challenge his characteristics. He doesn't challenge anything. Where Tommy Allsup does. And Tommy also goes out of his way to say how the Belmonts are great musicians and they can stand Dion. Nothing Dion does ever adds up to anything. Buddy was a great musician. Ritchie Valens was a great musician. He was a great musician. Everyone loved the Big Bopper, and Waylon Jennings was a great musician. He goes on with that, but Dion didn't count for anything. That's a bit childish and very, very sophomoric in my opinion. And a lot of people who really come off and say that, well, Dion's a drug addict and drug addicts lie, and he was on drugs at the time, so they could lie. That's also a very cliche thing to say. That is very cliche. And really, some of the things Tommy Allsup had to say are very cliche too, especially when it comes down to the fact that all of a sudden Maria Elena didn't side with him. And keep this in mind, Tommy Allsup. I know I'm directing things more to you than I am Dion, and I just want you to understand that I think you're telling the truth about your coin flip. I do think you're telling the truth. However, I think, and this is where I'm going to come down to the big scenario. Of course, in my videos, I said Buddy Holly could have been burning the candle at both ends. How do you know Buddy Holly wasn't burning the candle at both ends? If you really look into this, there is a book that talks about how there were some issues with you on that trip too. I mean, if there really wasn't, and you got the witnesses, you got the people to back it up, why don't you sue him for slander? Buddy Holly might have said something to the headliners and to his band, and he may have said it with them all there, and this is where it becomes a lie on any part. I think Buddy Holly said, "Look, I'm going to try and charter this plane, and I'm going to see what I can get, and we'll see if we can get my bandmates, and we can see if can get everyone on." Now, if we count this all up, you had Frankie Sardou, the Big Bopper, Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, and Dion Dimucci. That's the first 5. You had 2 or 3 Belmonts. We'll figure 3 in. You had, Tommy Allsup, and you had Waylon Jennings. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? You had 10 people, and truthfully, and if you want to throw Carl Bunch in, you can throw in 11. Buddy Holly pretty much got a Beechcraft Bonanza, and I think that's all Buddy Holly could get. Now, a lot of places said all he was able to get as far as a chartered plane was a Beechcraft Bonanza. If he could have gotten a bigger plane that would fit more people, I think Buddy Holly would have gotten that. I really and seriously do think he would have gotten that. So, instead of just letting everyone know this is what I was able to get, and Buddy Holly could have just simply made the choice himself. He just had, he talked to the headliners and he talked to his band. And my guess is that Waylon Jennings could have been. This is where the story of Waylon Jennings being there for the coin flip with the Big Bopper could very well be true, and him being there with the headliners. Because we don't know if Tommy Allsup could have just simply been assuming that if Waylon's going, he's going. Because if you look at it, between what Buddy Holly said about him not inviting Tommy Allsup to be on this tour with him, and between them, the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly in the car, and Tommy Allsup being asked to make one more check to see if there's more equipment, and Tommy Allsup said Buddy Holly normally never did that, and he goes right in there and sees Ritchie Valens signing autographs, and Ritchie Valens gives him the talk right there, and then they flip the coin, and of course Ritchie called heads and won. That could have easily been a setup. How do we know it wasn't a setup against you, Tommy Allsup? But Dion Dimucci, you also have to come out and tell the truth and clear the air. Who was playing the drums for Frankie Sardou if you, Buddy Holly, and Ritchie Valens were in another room with the Big Bopper? You got to settle that one down too, Dion. Not coming down on you guys, not hating on either one of you guys. I'm not taking either side. I believe you both told the truth. But I do believe that Buddy Holly, if he could have gotten something bigger than a big Beechcraft Bonanza, he would have. And he would have made sure everyone that was on that bus could be able to go onto the plane. If he had to get a twin-engine plane that could seat up to 12 passengers with a pilot and a co-pilot, he would have done that. I think if you had more people on a plane, even if it was a bigger plane, it probably would have cost less than $36 too. So that's what I'm sticking to. I don't think Tommy Allsup's lying. I don't think Dion is lying either. But when you look at this big picture here, and Chimes Freedom, you did a great job of this. Tommy Allsup is the one who stuck to the story for 50 years, and we didn't hear anything from Dion till 50 years later. And I always wondered what Dion had to say about it. I always wondered what Frankie Sardou had to say about it. Very little has been said by Frankie Sardou, and unfortunately he's passed away. I think we will eventually find some interviews where Sardou gets that whole matter settled. But I do believe both guys could have been telling the truth. Now, either Buddy Holly was burning the candle at both ends, or he was straight up with everyone about it, or Buddy Holly was just really wanting to take care of himself. And with the rumors that went around that the Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, and Ritchie Valens did take a plane, and Dion were all as headliners on a plane together, I don't believe that rumor. I don't believe that rumor at all. That they took a plane to another spot. I don't buy that. But I do believe that if Tommy Allsup calms down and talks to Dion and is calm, they could get this settled. Don't look to a lie detector test, because if I'm Dion Dimucci, I'm refusing to your challenge of a lie detector test, because even though lie detector tests are proven to be a lot more accurate now with the technology today and the advancements of it all now, polygraphs still are an inexact sign. So they're still not foolproof. And they're only admissible in court now for a civil trial, not a criminal trial. And the civil trial, the judge can disregard the lie detector test after it's been said. The lawyers can still fight against the lie detector test, and a jury or a judge can be forced to not use that polygraph. So to sit there and ask for a polygraph, I would want you to do a polygraph too, Tommy. And not just to talk about your recollection of events, but to talk about your feelings and to see whether you're really telling the truth about Maria Elena Holly and her character, and if you really saw the Valens family as traumatized as you said. Just get on the polygraph, and do you really have a problem that dates as far back as 50 years with Dion Dimucci? I would like for you to take that too, if Dion has to do his thing. Because I believe you guys could both be very well telling the truth. You could very well be. How do you know Buddy Holly himself wasn't duping you? I don't think Buddy Holly's like that. Don't take what I say as the gospel truth here. I'm just giving you some opinions and some scenarios. That's it. So with that being said, that's my story. This is my last rant on the whole coin flip debate between Ritchie Valens or Buddy Holly, between Tommy Allsup and Dion Dimucci. And Dion Dimucci, even though I know your sister Donna, like I said before, I am a guy who's like Fox News. I'm very fair and balanced. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.